Welcome to the GTN Show. Now, it's getting hot out there, or at least it is in the Northern Hemisphere. So today, we're going to be covering some tips for training and racing in the heat.
Yep, I'm also back from Eurobike, the largest cycling tech show in the world. So I'm going to be sharing some of my favourite bits of tech from there. But we also have an exciting announcement from the PTO and Super League Triathlon.
Yeah, on top of triathlon results, we're going to be taking a look at a couple of epic ultras that happened over the weekend, as well as looking ahead at some very exciting races coming up this month.
Now, many parts of the globe, or particularly the Northern Hemisphere, are experiencing a heat wave this week. So, in true British fashion, we decided we'd discuss that. I mean, it's currently going to be around 40 degrees Celsius in London, and according to some very credible news sources, that's hotter than Barbados.
I mean, we're relishing it, aren't we? But on a serious topic, I expect some of you guys are out there braving it for training, and maybe you're even having to race in it. And it is actually a serious topic because the extreme heat can be dangerous.
It really can. So we thought we'd run through a handful of our own personal tips on how to deal with training in the heat and also obviously racing in the heat.
Yeah, well, the human body, to be able to work efficiently and kind of, I guess, be safe, the core temperature has a fairly small range which it needs to stay within. So that's from 36.1 up to 37.2 centigrade. And any side other than that, you can start to be inflicting damage on your body.
Yeah, now obviously the ideal is to acclimatise to this increased heat, but that can take weeks. And obviously by doing that, you start to have a decreased perception of the heat, which is obviously massive. And then through repeated exposure to heat, your body will learn to preempt and actually prevent that heat overload by increasing the sweat rate and also preempting and sweating earlier. But if you are going to do that, do it very gradually. Start off with very short exposures to heat, build that up with time. And please do not neglect eating and of course taking fluids on. That's really, really important, and replacing those electrolytes. Don't do the whole kind of avoiding water thinking that's going to make you better.
Yeah, it's also really easy, like you say, isn't it, to I'm just less hungry when it's hot.
Yeah, that is very true, yeah.
So yeah, good point on that one. But yeah, so for quick tips, I mean, basically you want to be having as short an exposure as possible when it's hot. So maybe keeping those training sessions a little bit shorter, but ideally if you can, alter when you train in the day. So on the whole, it tends to be cooler in the morning before it heats up, because at this time of year, it takes quite a long time to cool down in the evening, but still evening is probably going to be preferable compared to lunchtime. And then think about what you're going to wear, whether you want to have just something really light or minimal as well, and something that's going to help wick that sweat. And when it comes to cycling, for example, your kit you're using, maybe it's like changing the helmet. If you've got that luxury of having, say, a more ventilated helmet, that's a great way to just allow you to stay cool. And maybe swap your sessions around if it's really, really extreme, because you don't want to be raising that core temperature by doing a really hard workout in the middle of the day. So see if you can swap them. We don't normally advise that, but for this situation, it could be good. And of course, make sure you're safe and you use sunblock.
Yeah, no, actually, that's an interesting point about the time of the day. And you will find, obviously, when you've got the luxury as a pro triathlete to move your sessions around, you've got all day, we would always do stuff very early in the morning, and perhaps if we had to, swim over the midday and then run again or cycle in the evening. So that's smart training. Obviously, as Heather said, hydration is incredibly important here. So you do want to be making sure you're replacing electrolytes. If you can, and we'd really recommend this, also finding out what your sweat sodium concentration is, because everyone's sodium concentration is very different. Mine is almost double Heather's. Well, it is more than double Heather's. And so I need to take on a lot more electrolytes. Now, you can, of course, go and do some very thorough testing on that. But as a ballpark figure, we would recommend actually heading over to our partner's website. It's a shameless plug, but it's fantastic. Precision Fuel and Hydration. You can plug in some numbers about yourself, and it can give you a rough ballpark figure that can help you with how much sodium you need to be taking on. So with that, we'd really recommend you pre-hydrate for hot climates like we've currently got in the Northern Hemisphere ahead of sessions, and to be honest, just day in, day out. And then when it comes to training, make sure you've got loads ready. So if you're doing an indoor training session, having loads of bottles ready, or stash bottles if you're going out for runs, you maybe rearrange your run routes, you're just doing loops and loops. And then also if you are doing a race, I'd make the most of special needs if you can do that, or failing that, just making sure you're taking a lot more with you in terms of electrolytes.
Yeah, and final few points for training. I mean, you mentioned training indoors there, and usually we think of training indoors when the weather's bad, as in cold or wet. But actually, if you've got a good fan and windows open, you might actually find that you can stay cooler by training indoors, or you could even have ice packs ready to just pop on you.
That's a good idea.
If it's really extreme.
And then, freezing your bottles before.
Yeah.
That's a good tip. Forgot about that one.
Yeah, you could even, again, when it comes to hydration, plan your route so you're going by a shop so you can go and get maybe an ice lolly on your run. We're getting carried away now.
Sounds like a great idea.
I think we're just...
I think my training would go out the window.
Yeah, I think we're British and we get a bit excited when it gets hot. But all seriousness, these are tips that if you are struggling out there, they are worth taking on. Well, we're going to crack straight on with a few things we spotted online over the last week or so. And this first one's a lovely bit of news coming out from the Lionel and Erin camp. So Lionel Sanders and his wife Erin have just announced that they are expecting a baby. Oh, and their dog Chewy.
Yeah, Chewy. I was going to say, don't forget Chewy.
Yeah, Chewy. So Eric, Chewy and I are beyond excited to announce that the team will be growing by one this fall. More on the announcement and apparently in their YouTube link if you guys are interested in seeing a little bit more about that.
Congrats! So that's
well
really
done,
cool,
guys.
really cool. Also, we spotted that Sam Long is going to be racing the Outdoors Triathlon, which James from our channel has won a couple of times before. It's an epic race, absolutely amazing. So be very interested to see how he gets on there because it's incredibly hard, a lot of climbing, which I know Sam likes. He's a very strong rider, but yeah.
It does feel like he's really doing sort of ticking off some races off his bucket list this year, doesn't it?
It does.
Good for him. Like, why not? Go and do it.
Also, in Muckhoff, we've got a great initiative going on at the moment. It is a limited edition Move Over Nano Bike Tech cleaner, and 10% of profits will be going towards charities dedicated to breaking down barriers towards women participating in sports.
Yeah, lovely concept. Great idea. And who needs an excuse to clean their bike? Yeah. Anyway, not such positive news, sadly, coming from Johnny Brownlee. Ahead of the Commonwealth Games, he has frustratingly just posted this saying, I'm gutted to announce that I won't be racing in the Commonwealth Games. Struggling with my wrist since that crash in Leeds. You guys might remember that. A recent scan is a scaphoid fracture and no other option than to wear a cast for 4 weeks. Just saying home games don't come around very often and basically saying how gutted he is and wishing the rest of the team good luck. And I know a scaphoid is one of there's 3 bones in the body that don't heal very well, and that is one of those 3 that does take a long time, and it's just like inside your hand, and it's really frustrating for him.
Oh, really sorry to hear. We've got a bit more of an update on the Commonwealth Games coming later on. We did also get tagged in on this post over the weekend. I don't know all their names, but 3 guys took on the 3 Peaks Challenge and cycling between, as James and I did just last month. And they did beat our time, as they were quite excited to point out. They did it in 14 hours 55, so a little under an hour faster than us guys. So I think next time maybe James and I might avoid the casual T-stops and some of that. I'm only joking.
Is that giving you the inspiration, ready to go back there again, Mark?
Honestly, I didn't realise it was a race, but next time we will take our A game. No, we actually went, we went hard, and very impressive, guys, that you managed to do it in that time, because it was, a really tough challenge, and I'm glad we inspired you, unless you had it already in the plans anyway. So yeah, well done. Well,
the final thing we spotted is Jan Frodeno being a fanboy. I mean, we're quite used to being fanboys of Jan Frodeno, but he was actually out at the UCI Mountain Bike World Cup and was catching up with Nino Scherzer.
Yeah, so obviously Jan's spending a lot of time in Andorra anyway, and looks like he may be living out there now. Who knows?
Rumours have it.
But it's very cool to see 2 legends of the sport having a photo together. Okay, now for the Tri news, and starting off with, we had some rather surprising news from Mark Allen, 6-time Ironman world champion, who in a video has basically explained how a cancerous spot has been identified on his cheek and has required Mohs surgery basically to remove that, and that requires the doctors digging around in the skin, in the cheek, to try and remove those cancerous cells, and can at times require multiple attempts to try and get rid of all the cancerous cells. Yeah,
it sounds horrible. But thankfully, Mark managed to was successful on the first operation, so he hasn't had to go back for repeats. But he has been very open the fact that as a teenager in his early years, he spent lots of time just lifeguarding in California. And then obviously as an endurance athlete, spent a huge amount of time outdoors, and is just trying to make sure that he's using this to help raise awareness of the importance of sun protection and looking after your skin. And I think as triathletes, we're outside so much, and it's something that I am very conscious of and wish I was a bit more conscious of earlier. So hopefully something positive comes out of it. You guys listening, make sure you use that sunblock.
Absolutely, and very pleased to hear that everything was good for you, Mark. Now moving on, and we actually have this coming weekend the inaugural PTO Canadian Open, the first round of the PTO Tour. And in case you're wondering how you're going to be able to watch this from home, well, we have some exciting news.
Yeah, we do. The PTO have just announced a very exciting partnership with Warner Brothers Discovery to have an exclusive multi-year deal to broadcast live and on demand. So you'll be able to watch it on Eurosport 1 as well as Discovery Plus, the Eurosport app, and GTN Plus, which is quite exciting. And impressively, they're apparently going to be able to have 20 different language options, which I think is awesome.
Fantastic. I'll definitely be tuning in. We've got the likes of Nicholas Spirig, Laura Phillip, Emma Pallant-Brown and Holly Lawrence down on the start list for the women. And on the men's side, we've got Christian Blumenfeld, Gustav Eden, Lionel Sanders, Joe Skipper, and so many more, all racing. And with a $1 million prize purse up for grabs, I can pretty much guarantee it's going to be some fierce and exciting racing.
Oh, yes. Well, there's some also exciting racing coming out later in the year with Super League Triathlon, with the first franchise-owned team. Now, this is headed or led by Chris McCormack, the former Ironman world champion. He's going to be leading the team Bahrain Victorious, which might be a familiar name from the cycling team if you do follow world cycling. Now, they are going to be up against the other teams such as the Cheetahs, who are actually a fan-owned team. We've talked about that on the show before, alongside the Eagles, Rhinos, and the Sharks.
Yeah, now there are obviously some athletes from the Bahrain Endurance Triathlon team that are already racing in the Super League Triathlon, the likes of Georgia Taylor-Brown and Vincent Liu, who are actually already in the Scorpions team, and they'll be joined by Cassandra Beaugrand, Henry Skuman, Tyler Michalchuk and others. And obviously all eyes will be on them this year with their new purchase of the team and seeing if they can take that overall victory.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if any other teams or owners come along to sort of buy these teams and where that's going to go. But yeah, exciting stuff. There's another new exciting announcement from Super League Triathlon ahead of their new championship series. They've got a slight change in some of the rules, and one of them that's come out is a new ability for the fast swimmers to actually win a short shoot, which can be passed on, from what we interpret, to another member within their team. So if they think, getting really tactical with this, they could pass it to someone later on who might need it for the run. They also earn themselves points and the overall team points for that. So there might be, when it comes to team selection, more of an emphasis on some strong swimmers as well. Who knows?
I think that's really exciting. Now also this weekend we had one of the world's most renowned ultra running races, the Hard Rock 100, and it saw 2 new course records. And the men's race was won by none other than Kilian Jornet, who actually made his last appearance at this event back in 2017, but sadly didn't finish. He had to pull out around the 40-mile mark due to a dislocated shoulder. But he went on and completed the whole 100 miles this year in a whopping time of 21 hours, 36 minutes and 24 seconds, which is almost 10 minutes faster than the previous record. Yeah,
amazingly impressive. Well, the women's performance was equally impressive from Courtney Dilwater. She took the win in a time of 26 hours, 44 minutes, 36 seconds. And this was taking 33 minutes off the previous record. Over half an hour.
She's another world, isn't she?
And she finished 6th overall. And wait for this, in the women's race, she was over 7 hours ahead of the next woman. I mean, she is another league.
Yeah.
That's just insane. Well, there was another famous ultramarathon happening just recently, the Badwater 135. Now, this is known as one of the toughest. It starts actually below sea level, apparently 282 feet below sea level in Death Valley in California. And it ends up finishing at Whitney Portal at over 8,000 feet of altitude.
Yeah, now the men's race was won by Yoshihiko Ishikawa in a time of 23 hours, 8 minutes and 20 seconds, which is very impressive. Second place went to Ivan Penalba Lopez, and then third overall and first woman was Ashley Poulsen in a time of 24 hours, 9 minutes and 34 seconds.
Yeah, we just have to quickly touch on that one because sadly there have been a few sort of rumours around Ashley's result and performance on that, and that comes from, she's previously apparently had a doping ban for 6 months a few years ago, but has also in the past had some sort of controversial results around maybe not completing a whole race, and then afterwards when she was sort of approached about it, she did say, she missed a bit. So there's a few files that are being investigated as to whether her times exactly weigh up, and the GPS files are currently being ratified. So we don't know if that is, but if it is a credible result, congratulations to her, because it is a very impressive time. And now for What the Tech, and Mark is here in person to get very excited about tech, because Mark, you're just back from Eurobike. I know we've obviously had a few videos going out on the channel, but what were your personal highlights?
I mean, firstly, there is so much at Eurobike. I mean, we ran around like headless chicken and barely got through half of the stuff there. The particular stuff that featured in the videos that I really like, this aero sensor, really new one from a small startup, but they've come from F1, so a lot of know-how and a lot of experience in that world. It's a new aero sensor that will be able to go on the front of your bike, very similar to the likes of like the Notio that we've seen, but the design is totally different. So rather than having a pitot tube coming out of the front, it's kind of got this hole that goes in and it's got the sensors inside, and they say they can detect your angles, etc. with it, so you can get very thorough with the testing, whereas the other devices are relatively linear. With that, they've also got this aero body device. I won't bore you too much of everything, but the aero body device, you can basically lock in your position and the distance from your torso, your hips, your head, and if you move out of that position, it will show you on your head unit, and you can see how much you're in or out. Obviously, the Cadex bike has caused quite a stir lately. Yes, we featured more on that, but it was really interesting, and I do advise watching the video because we learned more about the design, and it isn't actually for the reasons that I previously thought it was for. So that was really interesting. It's a far more kind of practical design than I previously understood. Obviously, there's a load of profile design stuff, and they've got some new kind of aftermarket bottles that you can put on your bike that are very clever. And then lastly, the classified hubs, which aren't necessarily new. We featured them a couple of years ago on the channel and been at Eurobike for a couple of years. But now these classified hubs are now available on other wheel sets. So rather than having to buy the classified wheels, you can now buy your fancy Envy deep section wheels with classified hubs in them, and it's a really kind of revolutionary gear shifting technology. So I'm excited to hopefully see that making its way into triathlon.
Cool.
And I won't bore you too much more with the tech.
Let's move on. It is exciting, and it's great that, you know, as a triathlon channel, we can get to go and do that.
Yeah,
and,
definitely.
Steal a few things from GTN Tech guys as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, away from bike stuff, there has been some, I guess, controversy or arguments among the shoe giants. This time it is between Brooks and Puma, and apparently Puma are accusing Brooks of stealing their nitrogen technology. So they say that Puma has sued Brooks, alleging Brooks advertising for sneakers with nitrogen-infused soles, and that is violating Puma's nitro trademark rights and violating a design patent by copying the foam molding technology that Puma uses in its nitro shoes. Well, Brooks have responded with this, saying they're baseless and that Puma are abusing copyright laws and have currently rejected attempts to settle the dispute. I mean, it's just, there's more money and more lawyers than sense, I think, sometimes, aren't there?
Yeah, it's quite amusing for us to watch all this from the outside. Also, Skechers tried to sue Brooks last month. I'm unsure actually whether it's successful or not, due to a trademark infringement. And this one is quite funny because literally Skechers thought Brooks' use of the numerical 5 on the shoes looked too similar to the Skechers S. Yeah, I know.
I mean, where does it end?
And moving on, now we likely already seen the collaboration between Rafa and Palace Skateboards with the EF Education First Pro Cycling team. And we actually featured their TT bike at Eurobike, so go check that one out. Their design of their kit and their bikes is pretty wild. I imagine not everyone's cup of tea. I love it. And they've just launched a ton of new kit, including some Crocs.
Look at your face lighting up there. I mean, they do look very funky. They're a bit 80s-esque, but I like them.
Yeah, I think they're quite cool.
Quite cool.
I mean, to be clear, I'm not really a Crocs fan.
But you naturally have that tag. It's never going to leave you now. You are the Crocs man at GTN, I'm sorry.
Would you wear these, though? Yeah, let us know in the comment section down below. Okay, now for the race news. We've got a fair bit of racing this weekend, starting with Ironman 70.3 Ecuador, and that was won by Andy Potts. Good old Andy Potts. Second, Kevin Collington, and third, Fernando Toldi.
Well, in the women's race, there was actually sadly only one female pro, and it was Palmira Alvarez, who surprisingly took the win. We also had the Tijivaras European Cup, and the women's race was won by Janette Bragmeier of Hungary. It was a successful weekend for Hungary because it was Songa Lehmann, also Hungarian, who took the men's win.
Yeah, we also had a couple of Xterra events this weekend. First of all, over in Europe, Italy at Lake Scano, and that was won by Maxime Shane on the men's side, and the women's was Alizé Patis. Then we also had the Xterra US National Champs at Beaver Creek Resort in Colorado, and that was won on the men's side by Sullivan Middle, who is just 18 years old, and by doing so, beat his father, Josiah Middle, who is 43 years old, an Xterra Hall of Famer and 15-time Xterra US champ. Apparently, his son got a flat literally in the closing stages, tried to fix that, managed to plug one hole, still had one hole in the tyre, so had to actually ride down a very technical section into the finish with a completely flat tyre and holding his dad off. Imagine that. Just such a funny scenario. So his dad, Josiah Middle, came in second, and also still a very impressive athlete, Kieran McPherson, came in third. So it just shows how impressive that win is for Sullivan.
Yeah, and that young, it's going to be exciting to see where he goes in the next few years. Well, the women's USA National Championships were actually won by Leslie Patterson from Great Britain. I mean, Leslie does live out in America now, so we see her racing over that side. But she took the overall win, but I guess not the national title. It was Susie Snyder, who was second overall, but the first USA National. And then Amanda Peasgraves, the USA, was third overall.
And obviously, coming up, we have the PTO Tour, the Canadian Open, starting this weekend. But also in the next coming weeks, we have the Commonwealth Games. We haven't really discussed all that much, but it's a big event over here. And yeah, it's going to be taking place firstly on Friday the 29th with the men's and women's individual races. And then on Sunday the 31st, we've got the para triathlon individual races, and then also the mixed team relay.
Yeah, I mean, in case you guys have missed it, one of the reasons we're excited, it's actually going to be in Birmingham in the UK, not Birmingham, the USA, if you're getting confused there. And obviously, as a channel that's based in Great Britain, it's going to be quite exciting to see the home nations competing against each other. We mentioned that sadly Johnny Brownlee is out, but I guess for every time someone is injured, it's an opportunity for another athlete, and actually Dan Dixon from England is going to be coming into that team to race at his first Commonwealth Games. All right, now time to have a look at your photos, and you guys have been out there doing all sorts. This first one comes from Argo with his bike, his Cube Attention SL, and he is in the Karula National Reserve in Estonia. He says, a Forest Triathlon Estonia is a small endurance event which offers only full distance triathlon in the forest, and I guess with it so extreme, it only brought 20 athletes, including one brave woman. He gives us a full description here, but his overall finishing time was around 20 hours, 35 minutes. I think that gives you an idea, doesn't it, of just how tough it was. But apparently the first athlete crossed the line in about 13 hours, the last one over 23 hours. He said it was an epic adventure.
That looks cool. And obviously, well, I was going to say it's all off-road. No, it is all off-road because I saw some bikes with aero bars on, but they are mountain bikes with aero bars on.
That's kind of insane, isn't it? It sounds like a very bespoke race, but yeah, congratulations on completing it.
We've got another one from Ivan. This is from Klagenfurt in Austria. One of the biggest cry releases of my life was 2 weeks ago after finishing my first Ironman. And also my first triathlon too. No, someone else that tried doing that. My best friend and I are from Argentina, and I was lucky to have him fly all the way to Austria to see me race. Oh, amazing. When we met after the finish line, we both exploded in a beautiful cry and laughter, denoting friendship and brotherhood. My journey to the Ironman took 3 years and has been a huge part of it since the beginning. Love you, mate.
Oh, I really love that post. It's just really heartwarming, cool. Isn't it? It's awesome. That's what triathlon is about. Great stuff. Well, our final picture we've chosen this week comes from Chris, and it's him. He's riding his Trek 1000 SL. He's in Dorset, just down the road from us here in Bath. He says, rebuilt his bike after a spectacular crash at the West Bay Tri. First time out on the course with some new shiny bits to make it work.
Very nice. And it does look nice. Look at that. Very nice. I like that.
Coordinated with the tri-suit as well.
Very cool. Well, do please keep all your photos and videos, if you like, coming in. They can be anything you like triathlon related, please. And as we said in the show last week, we love to see some of the race stuff. Please avoid the professional photographer photos of the finish line, but can you send in any others? We'd love to feature them on the channel. You can use the photo upload link on screen right now or in the description just down below.
It's Caption Competition time, and last week we had this picture of a guy riding past a few llamas or alpacas. The debate is still out there, and it's out there in the comments, in the caption suggestions as well. Our first comes from Fergal Trace. Says, "I'd love to do an Ironman, but I'd never maintain that position, that head position, for 180k."
Nice. Robert Nastasi, you're all packing in a draft zone.
Alpacking.
Oh, yeah, alpacking, sorry. I ruined that, I butchered it. I mean, he did write all in his caption.
He did,
so
yeah.
just,
yeah, okay, if we're really pernickety here. Well, Peter Smith is also playing on that one, said, do you guys want to go watch the triathlon? Yeah, I'll pack a lunch.
Nice. Another very similar but great one, I think this has got to be the winner, is Athenan. Alpacas on the course? Actually, never mind. It was a false alarm.
We're chuckling, which means you have won. So make sure you get in touch and we will get a GTN bottle sent out to you. And for your chance to win the Caption Competition this week, we have this photo.
Yeah, I'm going to go for... I'm flying Jack. Jack? There's a Titanic reference. But anyway, I'm sure you guys can do better. Have you got one, Heather?
No, but I've only just glanced at it, so you've thrown me that one. That's not fair, Mark. I'm going to throw it back to you guys. So whatever you've got, it's got to be better than us, I'm sure. Do leave it in the comments section below.
Yeah, well, that is it for the show. We hope you guys have enjoyed it. If so, please do give it a thumbs up, give it a like. Don't forget to subscribe. And also, make sure you check out some of that Eurobike content that we've been discussing.
God, yeah, there's a lot of it out there. And if you want a video to go and look at now, we've also got the second part of Quinn, our cameraman's journey to Roth. So go look at that.